Behemoth is, in essence, the official video game wing of Newgrounds, founded by Newgrounds founder Tom Fulp, artist Dan Paladin, and John Baez, all of whom had worked together on various Newgrounds projects throughout the years, including the wildly popular Alien Hominid that would become big enough to see release on consoles as the Behemoth's first game, and would lead to probably their most well-known game, Castle Crashers. BattleBlock Theater was the Behemoth's third outing and is something a bit different, a fairly stripped-back and simple platformer, but one that largely focuses on its co-op gameplay, although the single player ain't terrible either. Sometimes you don't need more than a simple concept that feels fun to play, and the game pretty much nails that idea. BattleBlock started life as an Xbox 360 exclusive in 2013 and was pushed quite a bit as one of the big Xbox Live Arcade games of the time, and has since been made backwards compatible for Xbox One and the Series consoles, with a PC release dropping in 2014. Surprisingly, the game has kinda ended there. There's no ports to PlayStation consoles or the Switch, no remaster like Castle Crashers or Alien Hominid. I suspect that to some extent it may have to do with the game's voice acting, but it is a shame, as this game would be pretty perfect as a Switch party game, I think. BattleBlock Theater hides its genius behind being incredibly basic and simple, and honestly, for the game that was made, it works pretty perfectly because it focuses everything on the levels themselves. In single player, the player only has the most basic set of actions: a simple double jump, a punch, which acts as a slide while moving and which can dodge a few obstacles, and the punch also spikes enemies in the air to shoot them down to the ground like in Smash Bros, and the ability to use their weapon, of which there are a variety that can be purchased with yarn balls. To some extent, weapons are the secret sauce. Some, like the grenade and exploding frisbee, are simply weapons that aid in killing enemies. Others have combat and movement utility. Arguably the best in the game is the dart gun, which can create temporary platforms on most walls to break a lot of intended solutions in the game, although breaking the game is often the fun part, as the game is very open to your creativity. The acid bubble is situationally good as a platform as it rises up, but kills you instantly if you mistime it, and boomerangs can grab gems from a distance. And then there's a few weapons that are sheerly utility. The fan can be used to return projectiles to sender, or give your co-op partner a boost. The vacuum can absorb and eliminate enemy weapons, outside of grenades, and so on. Alone, the game is really fun. Its simplicity opens up a lot of freedom to get creative, to break things, it's fast-paced and addicting. Co-op, however, is where the game really shines, and I would guess, given how much it's pushed by the game, is more or less the intended mode. Co-op adds so much without adding that much at all. The main addition is that the right trigger can be used to throw your buddy, or to help them up ledges if you're above them, and these are simple and fun additions that make the game way more interesting as is. But then there's everything else. Punching upwards is niche at best in single player, but a great way to go up in co-op. A lot of stuff can be snapped in half by spamming jump while your friend is on your head, also spamming jump, which lets you get a ridiculous amount of height. Unclimbable walls, one player can stand on the other as a platform. More darts means more braking in general. Spiking your partner is useful to break upwards blowing fans in a few niche scenarios. Hell, sometimes just dying is useful, as your drowning or impaled body can be used as a platform, and death abuse is a great way to catch up if you get left behind on a wacky trick. The game lets you go nuts. If you can imagine a way to break something, odds are better than not that you can make it happen. I cannot recommend BattleBlock as a co-op game enough. If you have a partner you're well in sync with and who has the same will to break the game as you, it's probably one of the best co-op games you could ask for. It's not just a game like the Lego games as much as I like those, where two people are kind of just doing the same stuff in a shared space. It's a game that actually takes advantage of you and your partner just doing things together, thinking out of the box. It's great. Levels don't have a lot of themes. In fact, there's pretty much only one, and it's vaguely jail factory themed with blocks that make up the levels, but they're so all over the place in design that the game is constantly feeling fresh. Levels are comprised of pretty simple elements, stuff like spikes and buzzsaws that go back and forth, and water that can be crossed with boats, which often require puzzles to get them into the water. There are lasers that switch on and off and kill you if they shoot you, obviously. Buttons that make platforms appear or disappear, which can be activated by moving buzzsaws for timing challenges or by players for co-op little gimmicky challenges. Sticky walls that can be jumped off of, or floors that slow you down. Ice floors that are slippery. It's all fairly basic stuff you could find in any Mega Man, Mario, or Rayman game, but there's a lot going on to keep things fresh thanks to creative and clever design. Rideable pigs are the centerpiece of a few levels. They can't jump, but they can swim and walk over spikes, and can be used like Yoshi in Mario World as sacrificial stepping stones, which leads to a lot of interesting puzzles. Puzzles are big in the game in general. Lots of stages have several routes that open up and twist around each other as buttons are pressed to add or remove blocks along the other paths, or by activating moving buzzsaws that contextualize the trip back as timing challenges via, platforms that disappear and reappear on a timer. Some levels are giant loops, where the challenge is doing it twice or even thrice in the case of a fantastic endgame level, with each lap becoming deadlier and deadlier, and even though it could run the risk of being repetitive, it's always done in a way that makes the pressure climb higher and higher as you get towards the final lap. The final level of each world, and the 3 encore levels which are unlocked by beating it, are all really intense times challenges and become absurdly difficult in the final worlds, and going through these in co-op, trying to optimize every second, choosing parts that are overly precise or time consuming, is so much fun and almost makes me wish that the whole game was timed. Now they did go maybe a bit too far in the final encore level, which is a horrific no checkpoint rush on collapsing blocks while also dodging a barrage of deadly lasers. Honestly, I despised it at the time when I was playing it, but actually pulling it off, I gotta admit, it was pretty satisfying. While levels do kind of blend together after the fact, as in distinct level elements are pretty rare, and ideas are largely shuffled around and merged together to maintain freshness, it does so in a way like Super Mario Bros. 1, where a relatively small bunch of building blocks are arranged so cleverly and in so many different ways that it's incredible moment-to-moment fun, especially in co-op. The collectibles also push the game a lot. Each stage has 5 to 7 gems, with 3 needed to complete a stage, and they're often tucked behind extra challenges, puzzles, or hidden in invisible walls, all to incentivize pushing your skills or bumping your face into every suspicious looking corner, as gems can be spent in the shop to buy new customization parts for your avatar. Each stage also has a yarn ball, which are hidden in the same way as the gems, but are typically the stage's most devious challenges, as the yarn balls are used to buy weapons, although the fairly small pool means you'll almost certainly have all of them well before the end. Plus, in co-op, both customization parts and weapons can be traded with your partner, which is an additional fun interaction with your buddy. The game also features a few other modes to mess around in. Insane mode is an optional difficulty where death sends you back to the start, even in co-op, and cuts you off from a lot of the game's stronger death abuse strategies in co-op. It's probably a decent challenge in single player for achievement hunters and masochists, but I imagine it's tremendously frustrating in co-op, given how often we died, even when we weren't trying to. The arena is a versus mode for up to 4 players, and which has a variety of modes to play as 2v2 party games, like a race through a level to see who can make it through the fastest, a simple deathmatch mode, capture the flag, basketball. The only problem is that you'd need to wrangle together 4 people to actually do this with, and it's definitely not the main mode in the game. Time Attack is basically what it sounds like, and given how fun it is to go through levels and optimize stuff, especially in the stages that inherently have timers, it's a cute addition that gives a little bit of replay value to the game. There's also a level editor, a la Mario Maker, where levels can be shared online, and honestly, that's pretty much perfect for this game, given that, like I said earlier, like Mario, this game has a ton of simple pieces arranged in clever ways to always keep things fresh. So giving players the opportunity to do this themselves and share those levels and download other people's levels is a great way to basically make the game infinite. BattleBlock Theater uses the Behemoth's signature hand-drawn style, which is largely credited to Dan Paladin, although it's definitely their least flashy game, kinda by the nature of it. Being a series of simple blocks that can be arranged in a billion ways means that they need to be fairly uniform and simple, and the customizable characters similarly need to share the same basic body silhouette, although the selection of heads is gigantic, and there's a lot of extremely funny and cute ones mixed in. I like the Siggy Man, and of course Hominid and the Castle Crasher Knights are heads too, which are unlocked by owning those games, which is a nice little reward for longtime fans. It's a bit of a letdown compared to Castle Crashers, which is basically end-to-end with tons of environmental variety and dozens upon dozens of characters, but what's here is still strong in a way that works for what the game is. The cat guards are super cute, the character animations are extremely fluid, and the cutscenes that open each world, as well as the intro and outro, are extremely good in that, Newgrounds style, where they're simple, silly, and over the top. And their stage is a little paper puppet show, hence the title, which is a cute way to theme the game. The game's music was a collaborative effort from a number of people, so it has strong variety and is generally pretty energetic, but the standouts are definitely the ones done by Stamper, who also voices Hattie, the guy who's on the box art and who you're trying to rescue, and the game's narrator. Stamper was at one time a huge name at Newgrounds, but for me, he's more notable as one of the main members of Sleepycast, which featured some dudes you probably know who are all former Newgrounds animators, like Oni from Oni Plays, which is essentially a very neutered version of Sleepycast, Zach Hadel of Smiling Friends, and Corey Spazkid, who, he's very funny on Sleepycast, but nowadays he mostly just draws adult art. Stamper's great. He's funny, annoying, and kind of just goes wild over the cutscenes, and has catchy, stupid, also random songs, like the game's ending song and the Secret Room song that are basically perfect if you're into any of that Newgrounds sleepy cast kind of stuff. They sat him in a room and said, "Do your thing, Stamper, be a weird schizo." And if you're a fan of sleepy cast or that era of Newgrounds in general, it's just a fucking treat to get more Stamper. Unfortunately, I do think Stamper is probably the reason this game hasn't gotten a re-release in the same way that Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers have, simply because Stamper's now like a weird homeless crackhead, but I guess it is what it is. There's a very specific brand of annoying to this game. Some people are going to get instantly turned off by having to hear so much Stamper, but as it goes, for the people it does appeal to, and I imagine that's a lot of the Behemoth audience, it's about the best thing you could do to make this game stand out. The long and short is that BattleBlock Theater is simple fun. It takes a series of simple pieces, simple actions, and makes a fantastic pile of levels to play through, and even gives you the tools to make or play other people's creations. It's one of the most fun co-op games I've played in ages because the game is so free and open. It doesn't give a shit if you break things, find weird solutions. It arguably encourages it by teaching you early on how you can abuse your companion to get ahead. It's a fun game alone too. It's got a lot of well-designed puzzles, challenges, but it really shines and becomes special as a co-op game. It's very much a Newgrounds game in a way that the Behemoth's other games kind of aren't, where I think Castle Crashers and even the extremely difficult Alien Hominid have a bit broader appeal, where elements like the music and Stamper as a whole are going to be a very specific appeal for a specific type of nerd from a specific era of the internet. Even then, I think many of the Behemoth fans probably land in that group, and it's just a wildly fun game in general. It goes on sale fairly often, and even has a co-op bundle on Steam so that you can gift a copy to a friend to play with. So like honestly, you may as well go for it if you have a friend who's willing and you have a few hours to kill. It's a fantastic co-op experience. If you're playing alone, it's decent to good, but as a co-op experience, it's almost unmatched. It's completely just wonderful, magical.